I was used to recording with other artists in the studio, and you would go to the studio and, oh, let's get a drum sound. Well, an hour or two later, sometimes depending on the engineer, it would take forever to get a drum sound, okay, the percussion, timbales. Well, the bells are ringing a little bit. Let's tape it up. You have any more tape? Let's tape it up some more. Can you change that drum head? We need a different sound. Okay, you go through. By the time you get ready to record with this person or whoever it may be, 4 or 5 hours have gone by. You haven't played a thing. That was different with Prince. I got in the studio. My tech was helping me, of course, set up the drums, but I was just putting on the cymbal, the ride cymbal, the last thing, and he walked in with his guitar, and it was just the two of us, and I was just screwing on the cymbal, and he said 1, 2, and I'm like, wait, I'm not even ready. What are you doing? I picked up my drums, like, wait, 2, 3, and we just started jamming. Like, I thought, everybody gets a 2-hour drum, checking the drums to see what they sound like. He didn't do that all. That's what I loved, because if my timbales had a rattle, that was the funkiness of the timbale rattle. He's gonna let it sound how it sounds, and I loved it.
I don't want to get distracted by this. I don't know if anybody else has been this week listening to Questlove's hours and hours and hours of Prince that he's been DJing from his house. Last night I ended the show with something I'd never heard, which was Prince getting 3 people who didn't play instruments. He had his photographer playing bass. He had Vanity playing keyboard, 1 chord over and over. And he had his tour manager on drums. And he was playing piano and rehearsing them and having the greatest time with a bunch of people who don't play music to try to see what they could come up with playing music. It was unbelievable to hear that, just to hear the joy of creating. Sheila, like you're saying, not about perfection, not about, getting every tone right, but just like, let's make music.
And that's the cool thing about it, because by the time you record something, like if you're waiting to get a sound, the magic is gone. That urgency to, like, let me get in. I got an idea. Let's go. Gosh, can we do it? So it's after the fact, and then that part of being in the studio. Let me tweak the kick drum. Let me put a little gate on it. Let me, you start fine tuning things. And one of his secret things that he had done, well, it's a secret. Now it's not going to be. Well, anyway, some people know already.
Yes.
Don't tell anybody though. But what he used to do is he would play, like on the bass track. It wasn't just bass. He would put all kind of instruments on the bass track, because we were only starting with 24 track. And it was tape back then, ladies and gentlemen. Look that up, tape, T-A-P-E, tape. And so he had these big 24 track reels, and he would play, but he would have on the bass track, it was not just bass. He'd just throw in a crazy guitar line in the middle of the bass track. But you have all these instruments throughout all these tracks, and it's like the bass is not just the bass, the guitar is not this guitar, the piano has a cowbell in the middle of it for some reason. I mean, he just put stuff everywhere because we ran out of tracks.
By the way, Sheila, just the recording studio thing just jogged my memory on something that he played a very important role in. And that was when he was in the studio, back in the tape days, as we call it, if you look at the VU meters, right, the meters that meter the tape, the sound that's going to the tape, everything on his tapes would always be way in the red, right, which is meant and you were recording way too loud, right? So when Terry and I did our first studio, we got our machines and we started recording ourselves because we had an engineer walk out on us. So we figured we're going to learn how to do it ourselves. So we record. So the album we record ourselves is Janet Jackson's Control album.
Yes, it is.
Right? So when we get to the studio, when we call Steve Hodge, who is the engineer, and we tell him, hey, come in and mix this record. And he goes, okay. So he comes in, and he puts the first tape on, and he goes, who recorded this? And we're all proud. Oh yeah, we recorded. Yeah, we did it. And he goes, it's way too loud. And we say, yeah, we learned that from Prince. That's what Prince, he always puts everything always in the red. But what we didn't know was the way Prince's machines were set up were 0 on the meter, meant 0. Our machines were set up at what was called +6. So our 0 was already too loud to begin with. But but at the end of the day, when you listen to the Control album, it had a franticness about it. It had a kind of a distortion to it. And that was one of the things Prince always said. He said, I like my records to sound loud even when they're not. And when your ear hears distortion, it thinks that something's louder than it really is. And that was one of his, I don't know whether it's a secret or not, but that was one of the recording techniques he did. And that directly affected, when people talk about how they love the way the Control album sounds, he directly affected that. It was almost a mistake by us, but he was the one that inspired that.